Hello friends, it is week number 3 in our 52 weeks journal using the classic collage, and I went through my cards, the ones that I made in the bonus video for week 2, and which I'm using this one right here, this little eating card, and the printable as well. So holidays we have on January 15th, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And also, because my youngest 2 children are from China, we celebrate Chinese New Year's, which is the first week of February, but we decorate right after Christmas. So we decorated with all of the Chinese New Year items that we have and things we brought back from China. So I will be talking just a little bit about that. And then, of course, right after Christmas, I get tired of all the rich foods, and so I go simple and make a lot of different soups. And I like to bake, not very good at it, and make some different things that make me happy, comfort food. So I did that this week. I also tidied up some of my journals. I made 14 journals last year, and so I laid them all out to take a picture of them. And here's a small little, I'm going to do a small story. So that's what's great about this book, is it doesn't have to be a big story. And the other lessons, I listed a lot or talked about what was on my mind, because at the first of the year I have a lot on my mind. And then this week I'm going to do pictures because that's what I enjoyed and what is on my mind. I'm going to talk a little bit about I Have a Dream. I'm going to stamp that up here. And I'm going to write down 5 life lessons from Martin Luther King Jr. and using an article by Lewis Wilson, which I'll read at the end of this when I do my journaling. I'm going to put those 5 things here. So I may not keep it all like this, but these are the items that I pulled from all of my printable and a few things from my stash. I like to stamp a little bit, as you know, so after I glue it down I'll probably do some finish stamping, and then I like labels, so I'll pull some matching labels. And here are some stickers I think will go well with these colors. I like to try to use my leftover sheets, and I like living the dream. I might have to incorporate that in here somewhere. And some hearts, as usual. I think I have a heart on just about every layout that I do. So here are the stickers that I'll probably use to final embellishment. I'm trying to keep it flat so it fits in my book at the end of the year. So I am going to start putting this together. I'll speed it up a little bit, and then I'll stop, and then right before I journal and do all of my final pieces, I will come back and talk to you just a little bit. All right, see you in a few. So in my normal custom, I go through and I glue down the things I know that I'm not really going to modify. And that little 2x2 square I made with a texture plate in the Bust Your Stash class, and I had a few left over, so I thought it would be perfect for that little photo. And you'll notice that this little heart cutout was from last week's bonus content when I cut out a heart and I did some different journal cards, and these were the 2 that I didn't use in that video. So I thought it looked really well with the sun right from the card in the bottom left. And so I used both of those pieces on the spread. You see that I switched out the January, and then I decided to put my daughter's little photo inside the heart. That black and white flower has been in my stash for a very long time. I just think it's beautiful, and I thought that the colors brought a good balance to the other side of the page, so I was happy to be able to pull it out and use it. This little teeny tiny photo, I often print out collages, and sometimes I I like the photos to be tiny, so these little tiny photos, I'm going to tell tiny stories here on this spread. And so now I'm going to modify the cards and the pieces that I pulled out. With these little photos of food, I know that I want to mat them, so I'm looking for a little 3x4 paper. So I pull out this dark teal because the spread that I'm doing has that darker color in it and across. So I'm gluing these little photos down across it, and then I'm going to cut them out so it has a little teal border. And that way it just kind of stands out on the card just a little bit. You can see it better. So the top photo is gumbo. It's a Louisiana dish. That's where I'm from, so I cook it often. And I was able to get the right kind of sausage to make it, so I was very excited to make a New Year or January gumbo. And then the bottom one, I took a bunch of crescent rolls, and we had all kinds of pepperonis left over from hors d'oeuvre trays from Christmas. And so I took some crescent rolls and I rolled up this little salami and pepperonis and cheese and made some little roll-ups for breakfast. So here I'm trying to figure out what to do and what story I'm going to tell about the 14 journals that I completed in 2023. And then I stuck my little photo down to tell the little tiny story at the bottom. Happy with my eating card. I went ahead and stuck it down too. I know that for these two photos, since I'm putting it on the same 4x3, I want both labeled to match. So I pulled out these little labels because I had two of the same exact one. And it just brings a little bit of cohesion to that small space. So I have decided to use the stamp and stamp I Have a Dream, and I'm not sure what that's going to look like, and I haven't primed my stamps. So I grab out my stamping notebook and a couple inks that I want to try, and I test out the stamp first, the spacing, and then to see if the idea I have in my mind is actually going to work. I'm just looking for a fairly blank page that I can just play with. And I lost my stamp. I knew it felt funny, so I lost my eye. I had to go find it on the front of the book. It got stuck. So here I'm using black to prime my stamp with this archival alcohol ink. You know, usually once they're primed, they'll stamp color ink pretty well. And I'm just getting a feel for the stamp since it's different sizes. I've really enjoyed looking at some of the projects that people have done with this stamp, so I was excited to use it in this spread. So now I'm going to move on to this more kind of light mint. It's got more of a blue, and the other one is more of a green. So I'm just trying to see which one I'm going to like the best. Layering, I have a, and then I'll layer Dream in a smaller stamp. Just want to see what that's going to look like and if I'm going to like it.
For the second one, I'm going to stamp A Dream in the black, and the first one I made just do Dream, so I'm still just trying to fiddle with the placement and see what I like. I'm not stamping too straight or trying to get it too perfect. I'm just trying to get a feel for the space and the stamp and to see what I'm going to like on that label. And I still want to be able to read what's underneath it, so again, just kind of playing with the colors and placement. I end up liking the top better, where the A is stamped in the larger alphabet and Dream is stamped in black instead of the A Dream on the bottom. Either would work, but I like the top one. I think it's going to fill the space a little bit better, and I didn't want a big blank space on the label. And I also like the darker color, more green. So I'm just going to go for it here. If you have large alphabet stamps in your stash, grab out a large alpha and play with it. Grab out some labels and see if you can make a layered title for your book. These 1 1/4 by 4 spaces are just really a great place to stamp a title. And since I had a little bit of space to the right of the label, I decided to do Dream flush to the right, so it just kind of makes sense, at least to me anyway. And there we have it. So a lot of times I clean my stamps off camera so you don't have to see it, or I edit it out so you're not bored. But I do clean my stamp here. I do clean my stamps in case you were wondering. Usually with the baby wipe, and I have a stamp cloth as well that I'll just clean them quickly with. And I just love how that look. That's perfect. It fits in the layout really nicely. So this card, I wanted to add the date, and I have 15. And I looked through some different stamps that I have from other makers, and I'm just looking for maybe January that would fit at the bottom. I see this one, I like it. Now, I'm worried though that if I stamp it, it's a very thin font, so if I stamp it straight onto the card, I don't think you'd be able to see it very well. And then I couldn't really get it adjusted on the label just right, and so I decided to not stamp January at the top, and I decided just to continue on with that little bitty stamp. So I'm stamping 15 first, and then I'll take the same size and then stamp JAN. So for January 15th. And you can see that very clearly.
Alright, so here's what I ended up with, and it looks like I really didn't change anything except for I moved this little photo up here, and I put January right here, and then I have week number 3. So now I'm going to tell some stories about this week, and as you saw, this one I just journaled and talked about my New Year planning and how I felt. This one, I had a few more lists, and I've checked off some things that I've done, and told stories. I did a little bit of both. This week it's all pictures, really no storytelling at all. I did read a few. I'd like to challenge myself sometimes during different holidays or during memorials to learn something new. And so this week I learned 5 things about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., which I'll be placing there, the 5 things that I learned. and then telling some little mini stories. So just a few little mini stories. Labels are perfect for telling mini stories. A picture's worth 1,000 words. So that's what I'll be doing. I'll be going around the page telling my stories. Once I'm done journaling, I will add my final stickers, my final embellishments, and I will most likely do some final stamping with Journal Basics 2. It's got all these great little sequin scatters and hearts and little small shapes, tacks that fit in little small areas. And I have the colors of, I have these colors to do that with. I pulled out this green. I don't think I'm going to use that. I might go more that color since I matted my photos in this darker color. I'll probably use this one, if at all. I may not. But I pulled them all to use, and of course I have this dark ice spruced that looks good with that tag. So gathering these all together so I can go ahead and do my journaling, my final stamping, and final embellishing. All right, friends, let's get started together.
5 Life Lessons from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. What one of America's greatest civil rights leaders taught the world. An article by Lewis Wilson. It will have been 94 years ago this month that Martin Luther King Jr. was born in Atlanta, one of the greatest Americans to have ever lived. King devoted his life to the struggle for civil rights, a struggle that continues to this very day. In both word and action, he had a profound and immeasurable impact both at home and abroad. Today, as we honor his life and his memory, we note a few ways in which the rest of us can follow the example of this great man with these 5 important lessons. Lesson 1. Words matter. I've been to the mountaintop. His letter from a Birmingham jail. And of course, I have a dream. Through his writings and speeches, King outlined a vision of America that was inclusive, where the color of a person's skin had no importance compared to the content of a person's character. Reading or rereading some of those speeches, letters, and essays is a reminder that all of us can lead others through the power of carefully chosen words. Lesson 2. Take the long view, but take it quickly. The man who famously spoke of the long arc of history and how it bends toward justice also spoke of the fierce urgency of the now. He understood and made it clear that the struggle for civil rights was born of centuries of struggle. But he also understood that this fight must be fought today, in the here and now. He was a restless man who did not take his time on earth for granted. It seems impossible, given his enormous accomplishments and influence, that he was a mere 39 years old on April 4th, 1968, when he was shot and killed outside a Memphis hotel. Lesson 3. A movement is more powerful than an individual. Had he only been a writer, King would be an important American figure still. Had he merely given powerful sermons, we would still speak of him today, and yet he was so much more than that, in large part because he mobilized thousands of people and inspired millions more to act. He did so through persuasion, through the careful and hard work of convincing people one by one that the struggle was everyone's. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly, he once said. Not for nothing, we were a nun and a rabbi, among those standing behind him when he gave his famous speech at the National Mall in Washington, D.C. The impact of King alone would have been large, but the impact of King's movement was transformational. Lesson 4. Persevere. To describe some of the challenges King faced as setbacks is to woefully understate how difficult it must have been. His family was threatened, his movement was challenged, in and out of courts. Friends like Medgar Evers were killed before, of course, King paid the ultimate price for what he believed. And while he was often discouraged, he kept up a good fight because he knew that there was really no other choice, and he encouraged others to do the same. No matter what your ability, if you can't fly, then run, he once said. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. Lesson 5. Love your enemies, but hold them accountable. Throughout his life, King held true to his faith and to his core principle that in the end, love will conquer hate, no matter how long it takes. Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that, he famously said. And in his famous letter from the Birmingham jail, which you can and should read in its entirety, and read it every Martin Luther King Jr. Day, he wrote of his disappointment, especially of those in the church who he felt did not do enough to advance the struggle for civil rights in the United States. Near the end of his life, he wrote that, in the end, we'll remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends, which is perhaps the greatest lesson of all. You must take action and right the wrong. It isn't easy, but as King reminds us, it's what will ultimately define us, and wouldn't you rather be remembered as someone who took action for what's right? Chinese New Year, or Lunar New Year, is an annual 15-day festival in China and Chinese communities around the world that begins with the new moon, and that usually occurs sometime between January 21st and February 20th, according to Western calendars. Festivities last until the following moon. The origins of the Chinese New Year are steeped in legend. One legend is that thousands of years ago, a monster named Nian, which means year, would attack villagers at the beginning of each new year, and the monster was afraid of loud noises, bright lights, and the color red, so those things were used to chase the beast away. Celebrations to usher out the old year and bring forth the luck and prosperity of the new one therefore often include fireworks, firecrackers, red clothes, and decorations. Young people are given money in colorful red envelopes, and in addition, Chinese New Year is a time to feast and to visit family members. Many traditions of the season honor relatives who have died. Among other Chinese New Year traditions is the thorough cleaning of one's home to rid the resident of any lingering bad luck. Some people prepare and enjoy special foods on certain days during the celebration. The last event held during the Chinese New Year is called the Lantern Festival, during which people hang glowing lanterns in temples or carry them during a nighttime parade. Since the dragon is a Chinese symbol of good fortune, a dragon dance highlights festival celebrations in many areas. This procession involves a long, colorful dragon being carried through the streets by numerous dancers. This year is the year of the dragon, and the dragon isn't just a monster, it's a revered being symbolizing auspiciousness, good fortune, and strong energy. Emperors used it as a symbol of authority, and stories tell of heroes riding dragons on celestial journeys. Ignite your ambition, audacious goals, challenges, and pushing boundaries. This year, don't be afraid of big dreams. Express your creativity. The dragon values innovative solutions and bold visions. Let your imagination roam freely, explore new paths, and be true to yourself. Cultivate strong bonds. Surround yourself with supportive people who share your goals. Collaboration and trust are essential in navigating the year's ups and downs. And while the dragon fuels ambition, maintain balance. Find moments of calm to avoid burnout. practice mindfulness, connect with nature, and prioritize activities that nourish your spirit. Happy Lunar New Year, the Year of the Dragon.
All right, my friends, and I call that done. I didn't do any finish stamping. I just did some finish stickering this week, and so I will call this finished. So I'm really happy with it. It's some of the things that I did, some of the things I thought about and I worked on. So thank you for joining me, and see the next video for some bonus content.